So now that we've got our basics wrapped around the idea of Excel, the interface, the workbook, saving, opening documents, let's start to create something. I want to discuss entering data into an Excel workbook and more specifically into an Excel worksheet. Now open in front of you, I've got that file that I've been messing around with, this monthly budget 01 document. And I've got my two little worksheets there. I'm going to make sure that sheet number 1 is active just by giving that a click. There I am. And I'm going to start to enter some data into here. And this is going to be the document that you're going to use throughout the rest of this course, called Monthly Budget 01. So my first step, I want to put a nice title at the top of this worksheet, Monthly Budget. So I'm going to make sure that I'm up there inside of A1, just clicking the cell A1, and I'm going to type something in, my title, Monthly Budget. So I'll just type in Monthly Budget, making sure I spell that right. I'm going to hit my Enter key, and I've now typed a value into cell A1. Simple. Now I do want to point out that it looks like that monthly budget, it's not just in A1, but it looks like it's going over into B1. I want to assure you that this value is only inside of A1. It is not inside of the B1 cell. And just to demonstrate, if I click back into cell A1, you can see up inside my formula bar that I've got monthly budget. If I want to edit it, like I misspelled it or I want to change the title, this would be one place that I can go. Just click into there and make my edits. If I click into cell B1, where it looks like budget is starting to creep in, you'll see my formula bar is empty. So it's not in there. We are going to fix it so it looks a little more presentable later on when we get into a later discussion on formatting. But for now, it's inside of A1. I'm now going to click down inside of cell A4. And this is where I want to start building this spreadsheet that's going to outline my monthly budget, my bills, the various time frames for my bills, the different months, and so on. So right here inside of A4, I'm going to create a column of different bills. So the first thing I like to do here is put a header. We'll just call this bills. I'm going to hit my Enter key, and I'm going to put a few bills inside of here. And I'm just going to make some stuff up. If you want to use your own values, that's totally fine. Or you can use the exercises that come along with these lectures, whatever you like to do. But I'm going to make up my own here. So I'll say I've got rent. I've got, let's see, I've got my phone. I've got credit card payments. Got to get rid of those things. I've got, you got to have food. I'm going to say food. Let's see, rent, phone, credit cards, food, and I've got gas. My car's got gas. And now eventually I'm going to put some totals in here because I'm going to have some months inside of various columns, and I want to do some column totals. So I am going to put another one in here. I'll say I've got total. All right, hit my Enter key there. Every time I get done typing something in, I'm going to use one of a couple of different keystrokes on my computer. I'll hit my Enter key to typically drop me down a line, or if I want to move to the right, for example, if I jump up here into column B, row 4, cell B4, I want to put some column headers here for different months. So I'm going to start out with January. I'll just abbreviate there. There's Jan. I'm going to hit my Tab key. Tab will take you to the right. So now I'll say January, I got February, I got March, and I can continue going, hitting my Tab key to move me to the right. Tab. Now, I'm not going to continue doing months here. We're going to get the idea. I'm only going to do 3 months worth of data. But I am going to have a column here for totals. Because I want to be able to do a column of some row totals. How much did I spend for rent over the 3 months versus phone versus credit cards and so on. So I'll drop in another column there called total. So now we've entered some data. It's really simple. It's broken up in columns and rows. You're clicking into the cells. You're typing in your values. You're hitting your Enter key. You can use your Tab key as well to move to the right. You could use your mouse just to click areas, but just entering data into an Excel document. Now what we're building here is a simple, very common document or layout of data called a spreadsheet. It's got row headers. It's got column headers. Now, eventually, in the next lecture, we're going to take a look at putting data in the cross sections. For example, how much did I spend on rent for January? How much did I spend on food in February? And so on. But we've got a simple document entering data. So try this out yourself. Open up a blank document, open up that document you saved earlier, the monthly budget, and start to build out your monthly budget. You could copy what I have or come up with your own. That'd be even better. Practice entering some data into an Excel worksheet. Now this next exercise and demonstration is going to be a really simple one. We're talking about entering data. In the previous lecture, we saw building the foundation of our spreadsheet, just entering some simple headers into this Excel worksheet. Now inside of Excel, there are many different types of data that you can enter into an Excel worksheet. What we have right now is a bunch of text values, alpha characters, just words. What we're going to take a look at next is entering some numeric data. And this is going to be quick and simple. I'm going to make up some values that are going to represent my monthly spend for these different bills. So for example, I'll click into cell B5. This is the January amount for rent. And I'm going to say for my rent, we got $1,200. And I'm going to hit my enter key, drop me down a line. So for phone, we got $50. For credit cards, we got $100. For food, more food the better, I'm going to say $300. And for gas, I'm going to say $50. Now, again, I'm just making up some numeric values here, but I'm entering another form of data into an Excel document. And every time I type something in there, I'm hitting my enter key again just to drop me down to the next line. Now, I want to call out a quick difference between the text values that we did earlier, like the bills and the months, and the numeric data that I just entered in here. Take a moment. Look at the screen. Visually, what's the difference between those text values, those headers, like my row headers, my bills, and the numeric data that I just entered there? What do you see that's different? Something really small. You may overlook it. I know one's text and one's numeric. Yeah, I got that. What else is different? How about the formatting, the alignment? Text, like my headers, my bills, are all left aligned. My numeric values, they're all right aligned. It's something small, but it makes a difference visually within your document. Now, one of the reasons why Microsoft does this within their Excel documents deals with how clean the data looks. Imagine that you have decimal places here. $1,200.25, $50.10, $100.75. Well, because the data is right aligned, those decimals will be nice and clean, nice and even up and down. If the values were left aligned, because we have an inconsistent amount of digits on the left-hand side of the decimals would be all over the place. It'd be like doing the wave, right? It just wouldn't look as clean. So by default, Excel formats numeric data right aligned, whereas it does text left aligned. Something small, but visually we can tell the difference between the two, and you can tell the difference between those two different sets of data. Now we're going to see something very similar when we talk about dates, because dates inside of Excel really are numeric data. So try this out. Finish it off. Drop in some values for February and March as well. So we've entered two different types of data into our Excel worksheet. We got text, represented through our headers. We got numeric data. This is all the numbers out there that represent the different spend and different amounts that I've spent on my bills for the various months. Now I want to talk a little bit about dates. I had mentioned just really briefly in the earlier lecture about numbers that dates to Excel are really numbers as well. Let's take a look. Now I do have a form of a date in here. I've got headers, Jan, Feb, and Mar. Those are date values, but they're not complete date values. You know what? I wanted to say January 2016, February 2016, March 2016. This is really simple to do. All I'm going to do is click into one of these values, such as B4, which contains January. I'm going to double click. I want to edit that value. I'll double click. My cursor's now inside of that cell, B4, and I'm going to type in hyphen 2016. There we go. I'll hit my enter key. What do you think? It's not exactly what I typed in. I got January 16. It's 2016. What else changed about it? Well, it's right aligned. Remember, Excel recognizes dates, and it recognizes them as being a numeric value. Let's try this again. I'm going to go to C4, I'll double click, and I'm going to type in hyphen 2016. I'll hit my enter key. There we go. I've got a date. Excel is recognizing this as a date, and I can tell because it's right aligning it now, because it treats dates like numeric data. Let's try it one more time. Here comes March, double click, hyphen 2016, hit my enter key, and I've got my MAR 16. Now, this is great. Excel's recognizing it. It's a very smart application. It's doing a lot of the work for me. I didn't have to format it. I just typed it in. It recognized it as a date, and it treats it like a date. But you know what? I wanted to say Jan 2016. Well, you know what? I'm going to select those three cells. I'm just going to left click B4 and drag over to D4. Just grab my three headers. Now, remember, Excel's already done some of the work for us. It recognized it as a date, and it's treating it as a date. But not exactly the way that I really want it to. Although, what they've given me is completely fine. We could keep it that way and call it good. But I'd like it to say 2016. Because I don't want anybody to mistake that this is the 16th day of those months. So now, with those cells selected, I can look at my formula bar, and I do see a date. Excel has, again, recognized it as a date. But I'm going to format it a little bit differently. So on my Home tab, about 3/4 of the way to the right, I got a section called Number. And I can see that it's customized the number format. I'm going to change it. I'll go to a little drop down here. And I'm going to go down to More Number Formats. This opens up my Format Cells window. And in here I can see it's a custom category format. And it's using MMM, an abbreviation of the month, 3-letter abbreviation, hyphen YY. And it's an abbreviation of the year, 2 digits. Now I like it to be a full-fledged 4-digit year. So all I'm going to do is hop up here where it says type, and it gives me the example MMM hyphen YY. And I'm just going to add 2 more Y's. YY. And I can see a preview up here. It's Jan 2016. And that's it. I'll hit OK. And I've now got my Jan 2016, February, and March 2016. A simple change. Although Excel did quite a bit of the work for us, already recognizing it as a date, formatting it as such, we just tweaked it a little bit, giving it a little bit more information. 4 Y's rather than a 2, getting the full year out of it. Now I'm totally going to leave this up to you. You can leave it as the 2 digits, completely fine. That's what Excel did by default. Or you can modify it. But entering dates, as long as it's a valid date format, Excel recognizes it and it'll treat it as a date. Alright, so we've talked about a couple of different types of data and really just the basics of entering this data into an Excel worksheet. Now, we're going to switch gears here a little bit. We are going to continue talking about entering data, but we're going to talk about a different form of data. We're going to talk about formulas, calculations. But before we do that, I want to re-emphasize the concept of cell references, or the way that we reference content within our Excel worksheets. And I've really hinted at this, really at a high level. But I want to drill in and get a little more specific about this concept because it's going to become very important as we get into formulas, get into functions, and calculations. So take a look. This is the cell referencing concept. Now I talked about earlier how a worksheet is broken up into columns, A, B, C, D. Remember all the way to XFD, that thousands and thousands of columns later. And it's broken up into rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to 1,000,000+ rows. This huge amount of data. Now, the way that we reference content in this sea of columns and rows is by a cell reference or a cell address. Take a look. Let's say this $50 here that I've spent for January for phone. Where's that at? In this Excel worksheet, how would you reference where that content's at? Maybe a coworker is asking you, hey, you updated this document. Where'd you update these values at? Well, I updated on this worksheet inside of this spreadsheet. Well, I want to get a little more accurate with it. Maybe I want to add up that column's worth of values. Well, which data am I actually adding up here? Well, the way that we reference that cell, $50 right there, is column and row reference. So that cell, that location, that address, that cell reference would be column B, row 6. It's 6 rows down, and it's in column B. Cell reference B6. How about this? How about this total over here? Where's that one at? Yeah, it's in the E column. It's in row 4, E4. Now, a really quick way to identify this, and you can see it right there, just column row. But up to the left of the formula bar, you have what's called your name box. And in here, it tells you what's the active cell, what's currently selected. Oh, E4. I'll click down here into this 350. Oh, it's C8. It's right there. We have these cell references. Now, once again, this is a simple concept. It's column and row, just telling you where you're at within this grid. But once again, you start creating formulas, calculations. When we create our mathematical calculations like this plus this, or this minus this, or this divided by this, we need to tell it, oh, it's this cell, B5, multiplied or adding D5. We need to tell it where this data is located at. Okay, so try this out for a moment. Click into a cell, identify where you're at. What's the column, what's the row, what's the address, the cell reference. D5, B5, E20, F2000, wherever you're at. This is how you're going to reference data within an Excel document. So now that we get a grasp on that, and again, practice it. Poke around in there. Get a feel for referencing cells this way. Now we're going to jump into formulas. All right, so we've got cell references down. Now we're ready to jump into building basic formulas or calculations utilizing Microsoft Excel. Now, I'm going to hopefully bring back some memories of your arithmetic classes, your math classes back inside of grammar school. For me, math wasn't my strong suit. I'd go to math and I'd rather scribble in the margins of my binder and turn the lecturer, the teacher off. It was kind of a drag for me. My kids come home from school today and they ask me how to perform simple little math equations. It's like, oh, go ask your mom. She's down the hall. But the nice thing here within Excel, as long as we understand the basics, mathematical operators, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, potentially an exponent, Excel does a lot of the work for us. We just got to understand the basics. What is it that I want to get? And then Excel does the math. It's like whipping out your calculator. Excel is really a super powered calculator. You just plug in the numbers and the proper operators, and it does the rest for you. So let's take a look. Using cell references, using standard mathematical operators like addition and subtraction, multiplication, and so on, we're going to perform some calculations here. Now, there's one consistent element that every single calculation, from the simplest to the most advanced calculation you can perform inside of Excel, each of them have something in common. I was talking about earlier entering different types of data. Formulas or calculations are a type of data. But in order for Excel to recognize that you are entering a calculation, a formula, you start them with an equal sign. And again, this is true from the simplest to the most advanced formula you can create inside of Excel. You always start them with an equal sign. Take a look. So I want to calculate, I want to add up my dollar amounts here, my money for the month of January. So I'm going to click inside of cell B10. That's where I want my total to be. And once again, from the simplest to the most advanced, you always start them with an equal sign. I'll type in equals. That just lets Excel know that, oh, hey, what you're about to do here is a formula, a calculation. All right, so now I want to add up those values right there. Now I could do this. I could say 1,200. That's how much I spent for rent, right? Plus 50, I'm just using an operator here, mathematical operator, addition, just the plus symbol. Plus 100, plus 300, plus 50. Right there, I've just grabbed the $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 amounts that I have there for my different bills for January. Equals this, plus this, plus this, plus this. When I'm all done, I'll hit my enter key. $1,700 for the month of January. Okay. What do you think? Let's double click that cell. Let's open that formula back up again. There it is. Just double clicking the formula. What did we just talk about in the previous lecture? We talked about cell references. Am I referencing cells right now? No. I'm referencing dollar amounts. I'm actually referencing values rather than addresses, cell references, which means, take a look, which means if I change something, like this is 1200, let's say I change it to 1500, hit my enter key, ooh, it's still 1700. That should have jumped up by $300, right? That's not right. Well, the reason why, my formula is still looking at 1200, even though that cell up above changed its value. So this is where the importance of cell references come into play. So let me get rid of this. I'm going to select that B10 cell and hit my delete key on my keyboard. Just wipe it out. Gone. Let's do this the proper way. So once again, all formulas, they start with what? In equals. Now, rather than referencing the cell values, 1500 plus 50 plus 100 plus 300 and so on, what am I going to reference? The cells, the addresses. So I'm going to say B5, and I love this part. This was introduced in Excel 2003. B5, I can see that I just highlighted cell B5, and it color-coded it. They're blue. Now I bring in my operator, my mathematical operator, addition, plus, what's next? B6, color-coded once again, plus B7, plus B8, plus B9. Look at that. I'm now building a formula referencing the cell's location, their addresses. B5 plus B6 plus B7 plus B8 and so on. And I get this nice little color coding. This is especially helpful when you have cells all over the place within a worksheet. B5 and H20 and J2000 and so on. Nice color coded so you can visually see what cells you're referencing. Great for controlling errors within your formulas. Now I'm all done. I'll hit my enter key. There's my 2000. Great. Now let's update this value again. It shouldn't be 1500. That should be 1200. So I'll double click and just change that. Hit my enter key. And I've updated the formula back to 1700 because I'm referencing the cell's address, B5, B6, rather than their values. So building a simple little formula, just using some mathematical operator, in this case some addition, the plus symbol. We could do subtraction, minus, division with the forward slash, multiplication with the asterisk. And if you ever need it, you got the caret symbol. It's a little triangle. It's Shift 6 on your keyboard. This will be your exponent. Mathematical, simple formulas. Excel's doing the math. You just got to build the formula yourself. So practice this. I'm going to hit my enter key here, get my 1700 back. Drop in February's total, March's total. Do a total for rent, for phone. Do this inside the E column. Practice building some formulas here. Get a feel for building your formulas. And remember, always start them with what? Your equal sign. So we started down the path of utilizing cell references, cell locations like B5, B6, B7, and so on to build some basic formulas using our arithmetic operators like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and so on. Now, we discussed cell referencing. And once again, that brought us into formulas. Now, really, inside of Excel, there's two different ways to reference cells. We've used one of them. We haven't talked about it explicitly yet, but we've used one of them because it's default. This is called a relative reference. The second one is called an absolute reference. And I want to describe both of them here because there's pros and cons to both of them. Take a look. First, we'll look at relative references within our formulas. So, I've completed my different month totals here. 1700 for January, 1790 for February, and 1630 for March. Now I want to do the same thing for my different bills. How much total did I spend in rent versus phone and credit card and so on? Well, thinking about your data here, we have a very consistent layout. For each of these bills, there's 3 months worth of data, right? 3 months for rent, 3 months for phone, credit cards, and so on. So creating a formula there for each of these bills are going to look very similar. The only difference is if you're thinking about referencing cells. Let's jump into cell E5. This is going to be my total for rent. What row am I inside of right now? Row 5, right? There's row 5 for rent. Well, when I add up the rent values there, I'm going to add up columns B, C, and D for row 5. So it'll be B5 plus C5 plus D5, right? What if I go down to phone? I want to do the same thing, right? I want to add up the values for phone, but what row am I in now? I'm in row 6. So when I add this up, it's now going to be B6 and C6 and D6, not 5, because I'm now down a row. Take a look. Let's try this out. Let's put this into practical use. So I'm going to build my formula. We'll say equals. Now I want to say, let's see, B5 plus C5. Yeah, is that right? Plus D5. Great. Now think about the formula once again. This is called a relative reference. The way that we're referencing these cells, B5, C5, and D5, it's relative, which means from this location where my formula is currently at, all we did was go 3 cells to the left and add them up. Just relative to that location. Go 3 cells to the left, add those up. I'll hit my enter key, $3,600 for the past 3 months. Now I want to do the same thing for phone. Well, because we're using relative referencing, my formula, the new formula, is now in a new cell, but it's still the 3 cells to the left. So let me go back up here to the 3600. I'm going to copy that formula. So I'm just going to go up to my Home tab. I'm going to hit Copy, which is the little 2 pieces of paper there. I'll give that a click. Or Control C, C for copy on your keyboard. You can see I've now copied cell E5. I'm going to go down below, right down below to E6, and I'm going to paste this in. I'm going to hit the little paste button up here, this big clipboard with the paper. And I pasted it in. I got my 150. 50 plus 50 plus 50 is 150. Let's double click that formula, and look at that. Same formulas above, B, C, and D, but what row? 6. Relative reference. I'm in a new location, but it's still going 3 cells to the left and adding them up. Let's try this one more time. Hit my enter key. I'm going to copy this cell, E6. I'll Control C just to copy. I'm going to highlight all these cells down below. Just click and drag E7 to E10. And I'm going to paste this in. Control V, like Victor, for paste. And look at that. I'm done. Simple. Created one formula using relative referencing, just saying, hey, go 3 cells to the left. Grab them, add them up. Now I'm copy, paste. It's always 3 cells to the left. 3 cells to the left. Consistent layout using relative referencing to really automate my experience in creating my formulas. Very, very cool. Time-saving technique here. Now, remember, relative referencing is just one way to reference cells. There is a flip side to this, and it's called absolute referencing. Think about this. What if you had a calculation that you wanted to use over and over again? You wanted to copy and paste it to multiple locations, but within that formula, there might be a set of cells or a single cell that has to remain the same. This cell always needs to be used. Take a look. I'm going to build an additional column here. We'll do a percent. I'm going to hit my enter key. So now I want to know what percentage each bill, their totals, like rent, we spent $3,600. What's the percentage of the total spend versus the total for phone? What was the total spend or the percentage of spend there? Well, for my formula, I'm instead of F5, I start my formula with in equals. And I'm going to say E5, which is my $3,600 there for rent total. And I'm going to divide that using my forward slash. I'm going to divide that by the grand total, which is inside of cell E10. There's E10. Nice color coding, I can see it. So E5 divide with E10, I'll hit my enter key. And roughly 70%, ouch, 70%, man. 70% of my bills for the past 3 months went to rent. Now remember, this is using what type of reference right now? If I double click that cell, this is a relative reference. So from that location, we want 1 cell over, 3600, E5, and then down how many cells? We went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells down, and we divided from that location from cell F5. Now, what does this mean if I copy this? Because I want to do it for the rest of my bills here, right? I select that 70%, I Control C to copy it. I jump down here and grab all these cells and I paste it in, Control V. Oh. What's happening? I'm getting a very common error inside of Excel documents. This is called the divide by zero error. #div/0. Divide by zero. Can't do it. Mathematically, you cannot divide by zero. So why am I getting that error? Well, let's look at one of the formulas that I just copied and pasted. I'm going to double click the first error. All right. Equals. Great. E6. That's the total for phone, right? Check, check. That looks good. Divide. Check again. E11. Wait a minute. One cell over. There's E6. And then how many cells down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember the first formula, the one that we copied and pasted, told it to go 5 cells down relative to its position. So it is. It's going 5 cells down. But I don't want it to go 5 cells down. What's the next one doing? Over 1, E7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going too far, right? Relative to its location. So here comes an absolute reference. I'm going to delete these. I'll just highlight these and hit my delete key on my keyboard. I'm going to go back to the first formula. I'm going to double click it because I want to make an edit to it. Now this formula says go 1 cell over, grab that value from its location, right, F5, and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells down and divide. Now I want to copy this for the rest of the bills. Of those two cell references, E5 and E10, which one needs to be consistent? If I'm going to copy and paste this, I always need this cell. Yeah, E10. So the way that you make a cell reference absolute is with $signs. I'm going to do $E, $10. I've now made cell E10 absolute. Column E, row 10 is now absolute. I'll hit my enter key, and I'm just going to copy and paste again. Control C, I'll grab all this, Control V, paste it in, and I've got my formulas. Each of these now, if I give them a double click, utilize E10, E10, E10. It's absolute. The alternative to this is to create the formula, get the errors, and then have to go each individual one and update them, or create them from scratch. But what a hassle. By utilizing absolute and relative referencing, we can create very dynamic formulas. Automate your experience. So once again, try this out. Finish off your totals that you did earlier. If you haven't done them already, complete them here. Create the percentage column. Mess around with this idea of relative and absolute referencing. And remember the $signs. $E, $10. You've made cell E10 absolute. So we just got done talking about building basic formulas within a Microsoft Excel worksheet. We've talked about doing some addition. We've talked about cell references, both relative and absolute references. There's one last topic that I want to bring up here, and hopefully this will spark a memory, although it may be a faint memory, back of your head, back from your days of arithmetic or your math classes inside of Excel. And you know what? My 4th grade math teacher would be super stoked that I still remember this concept. And the way that my instructor, my teacher, taught me this is really the reason why I remember it. She used an acronym. This deals with what's called the order of operation. Calculations can be done left to right, just as you read them, or they can be done utilizing the order of operation. Each mathematical operator, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponents, they should happen in a specific order. Now, this isn't something that is only Excel. This is a mathematical concept. Take a look. This is the order of operation, and this is the acronym that was used on me back in 4th grade. This is called PEMDAS. P-E-M-D-A-S. Now, it's an acronym. What does PEMDAS stand for? This is how you're going to remember this. It's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Got that? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. PEMDAS. Now, that's an acronym. It's just something for us to be able to remember the order of operation. But how does this apply mathematically? Well, this is the order that these standard mathematical operators should be performed in. Not just left to right. You don't just read math left to right. You do it within this proper order. And this proper order is first, parentheses. Second, exponents. Then you multiply, divide. Then you add, subtract. You got to go in that order. So a calculation that you might read just left to right could give you a completely different answer than if you follow the order of operation. Do your parentheses work first, then do your exponents, then your multiply, division, then your add, subtract. Think about this. And again, I hope it's sparked a memory somewhere deep in your head. Now, again, this is what I was given. I've heard other acronyms out there. But whatever it is, grasp a hold of that. Think about that as you build your formulas. The nice thing here is Excel already follows this. It already adheres to PEMDAS, to the order of operation. All we need to be concerned with is that we're building the formulas appropriately. If you want something to take place first, make sure it's wrapped inside the parentheses. Regardless of anything else, wrap it in the parentheses. That stuff will take place first. Okay? So keep that in the back of your head as you build your calculations within Excel.